Let's make this delicious and extremely simple chocolate fudge recipe.
It's one of my mom's favorites too.
We are making the easiest fudge recipe that I know how to make. This chocolate fudge is really easy, like I said, but it's also really delicious. There's a butter fudge video on our channel that y'all seem to have really enjoyed, but that one is a little bit more complex. Butter fudge is still, hands down, my favorite fudge ever, but sometimes you just want chocolate. And chocolate fudge is definitely one of those things that knocks out that chocolate craving. I think I'm gonna be integrating more family recipes into the YouTube channel and incorporating some of the favorites that we make all the time. So this is definitely one of those. Without further ado, let's make this chocolate fudge. What's especially great about this recipe is you can do everything I'm about to do in the microwave. However, I'm gonna be doing it on the stovetop because I don't have a microwave. Since I'm doing it on the stove, that's the instructions I'm gonna give you, but let me just tell you what you would do quickly if you were doing it in the microwave. If you were doing it in the microwave, you would want to just combine all the ingredients into a big dish, microwave them for a couple minutes, stir it together, and let it set. Really easy, but we're gonna do it in the stove. First thing you need is 1 stick of butter. This is a half a cup of butter. This is regular salted butter, it's not unsalted. And we're gonna put this in the pot and let it melt. And let's turn on the stove and let that melt.
There's something so mesmerizing to me about watching butter melt. I think it's just really cool to see it go from a solid stick to completely melted. It's kind of fun to watch, I think. So I sped it up a little bit for you so you could watch too.
The butter's all melted on the stove. And speaking of butter, we are gonna take an 8x8 square dish. That's what we're using for this fudge recipe. And we're gonna butter the dish. You don't wanna use canola spray or any sort of cooking spray. You really wanna use butter that's softened because you will get some of that flavor on the edges of your fudge. So we're gonna butter up an 8x8 dish. And we're gonna get that ready so it's ready to go because the fudge will start to set up kind of quickly once it's finished cooking. So we want that dish buttered and, ready for us when we need it. Someone on the butter fudge video that I posted last year commented that they always save their butter wrappers for buttering up dishes. And I thought that was a great idea, but I have yet to implement that yet. I always forget, so I just used a paper towel to spread that all around. Okay, now that our dish is all nice and greased up, we're gonna set that to the side and we are gonna work on the next step. Now, if I'm being totally honest with y'all, I don't always sift my powdered sugar, but since I'm making a video, I wanna do it the proper way that you're supposed to do it, which is sift your powdered sugar. Just know that if you do skip this step of sifting, sometimes you'll have little white, like solid chunks of powdered sugar throughout the fudge. So it will mess with the texture a little bit. But sometimes if I'm just wanting some of this chocolate fudge and I'm craving it, I'll whip it together really fast without sifting it. I do make this a lot. So we need 3 2/3 of a cup of powdered sugar. My measure's over here. And we're gonna sift that into a bowl. So 1, 2, 3, and then the 2/3 of a cup. So this is the third, 1/3, and 2/3. This is also a 1 pound box bag of powdered sugar if you're not buying it in bulk. I buy my sugar in bulk, so I got a lot of it. Powdered sugar is also called confectioner's sugar for those of you who are in different countries. I know some of you aren't watching in America, so it's the fluffy white sugar, not granulated sugar. All right, we're just gonna get a spoon, speed this up a little bit. So we're gonna sift all this through so it's nice and fluffy. Sifting is not one of my favorite things to do, I will admit. Sometimes I just like to get things done quickly and I skip the sifting step. But if you tell the difference, that stuff on the bottom is so much finer It really does make the texture taste really good. And the biggest reason why we sift it is for the texture. So you could see, like, there's chunks of powdered sugar. Powdered sugar tends to clump together. And by breaking all those chunks up, everything will be smooth and velvety when it's all done. It does look really pretty. It reminds me of snow. Let's push all this through. Push, 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 push. Okay, now we're all sifted. And you can tell it does look so light and fluffy now. Next ingredient in our chocolate is cocoa powder. This is a cocoa powder based chocolate. You're not melting anything down, which is nice. I have two different types of cocoa. I prefer using this one. This is the Specialty Dark Hershey's cocoa. This one works too if you don't like it quite as dark. I prefer dark chocolate and I prefer it to be richer, and so this will give you that flavor. I'm running low on this one, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to use, I'm probably gonna need to use some of the other one too. We'll mix the two together. But this one really does make a big difference, and I think it will taste really good with that one. So to this, we are also gonna sift out the cocoa powder. The cocoa powder, we need 1/2 cup. So I need my 1/2 cup measure, which I can't find. Okay, this is 1/4 cup, so I'm gonna do 2 scoops to equal 1/2. Put my sifter back on there. Okay, so there's 1. Oh, we almost had enough to do the Specialty Dark for everything. Not quite though, so we'll have to use some of this one. You can tell the difference between the two. The Specialty Dark is darker. It is much richer than the other. But you can see your cocoa powder has all these little chunks, so sifting it out really does help with the texture. And we're gonna make some chocolate cocoa powder snow now. I got quite the cocoa powder dust cloud coming up at me. Okay, so everything's all sifted out. Now we're gonna take all of this back over to our melted butter on the stove. Again, if you're cooking this in the microwave, you would have just dumped all these ingredients into the microwave bowl, which my mom would often just microwave it in the same 8x8 pan that she's gonna be setting it up in. And it's good to go after a couple minutes. The next ingredient we need to add to our butter is 1/4 cup of milk. I am using whole milk because this is fudge. It's not meant to be healthy. It's meant to be rich and flavorful. 1/4 cup of whole milk. Kind of looks like chocolate milk because that's the same one I used for the cocoa powder. And then we're just gonna dump all of our powdered sugar into here. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess. Need to get a spoon. Hold on. I have a spatula. We're gonna stir together the milk and then put all this in here. And then we're gonna give this a stir. It would not be a true Cara Bluebird Homestead cooking video if I didn't make a mess. I spilled some of the cocoa powder all on my stove. This we're gonna cook on low for about 2 minutes, maybe 1 minute, just really until it all comes together. Let me tilt this down so you can see exactly what you're looking for when you are cooking this. So right now you can see the cocoa powder is not fully incorporated. You do want to stir it constantly as you're making this. It'll definitely be really thick. And the last step, which is optional, but I always like it, is a tablespoon of vanilla. I'm just gonna eyeball it. You want to add the vanilla at the end because otherwise it will cook off. Get here. Mix it up good. Okay, this is what it should look like. Super shiny and glossy and just rich and decadent. Oh, it's so good. My mouth's watery. This is what we're going for. So we're gonna put this into our buttered dish. We're gonna pour this all in. And you can use whatever size dish you want. Just whatever dish you use will determine the shape and thickness of your fudge. And I always leave a little bit in the pan to let, because it's so yummy. And then you wanna spread it out. So the 8x8 pan is a thinner bar. Sometimes I will make it thicker and do a smaller pan or just make a double batch. So you just spread this out. And that's what it should look like. Now that our fudge is in the pan, this is kind of the fun part. You can add different toppings to it if you want. I personally love it just like this. It's so addictive and delicious. However, another one of my personal favorites is adding some flaky sea salt. This is Malden sea salt flakes. I just bought it on Amazon. It is linked in my Amazon storefront if you're interested. But it is, I don't know if you can see that, a chunkier flaky sea salt. So I'm gonna sprinkle some of these on top. My mom also, growing up, used to do chocolate chips, and you can turn this into like a Rocky Road fudge if you add marshmallows or some nuts. You can really play around with it and add other toppings to it. But this is how I like it. Dark chocolate with flaky sea salt. Now we let it chill and completely set up. It will set up at room temperature, but I always put it in the fridge to speed up the process. And then you cut it into squares and you're good to go. So we'll check back here in a second when it's time to cut it into squares.
While our fudge is setting up, let me know in the comments if there's any types of recipes that you guys would like me to make videos about. I have a whole slew of family recipes I can share with y'all, so please let me know if there's something you're interested in.
All right, our fudge is all set up now, so let's cut it into squares and I'll show you what it looks like.
The size and shape of your squares is completely up to you. You can make them in larger pieces, like a brownie almost, or you can cut them into smaller squares that are more bite-sized. Use your discretion, do whatever you want to do.
The way it pooled there in the middle, I can tell that it needs to set up just a tiny bit more actually. But I should be able to still get a piece out. Oh, no, it's still pretty soft. Okay, just kidding. We're gonna let it set up a little bit more. Right now, it's still a little bit gooey. So good gooey though. Because I'm impatient and it was a little bit soft, I put the fudge in the freezer to set up just a little bit more. It's been there for maybe 5 minutes, but now it's perfectly set and I will scoop out a piece and show you. This fudge truly is really quick and easy. It's very rich and chocolatey, especially if you do that Hershey's special dark chocolate. It's so good. It definitely kicks the chocolate craving if you're craving something rich and chocolatey and velvety. It's so good, and it's the perfect consistency. It's not too hard, it's not too soft, especially if you let it firm up a little bit more in the fridge. My mom always kept hers in the fridge because I think she liked it cold too. There you have it. There's our finished fudge. It's so good. I love fudge. Feel free to send this video to somebody who likes chocolate fudge. There's a little arrow icon next to the like button that you can send it and just copy the link. And that way you can share the chocolate fudge yumminess with others too. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Cara and I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye y'all.